Reducing salt in processed foods might sound like a small change, but as you're about to hear, it could create one of the biggest public health breakthroughs of our time. Every single day, millions of people unknowingly consume far more sodium than their bodies can safely handle. This invisible habit slowly raises blood pressure, strains the heart, damages blood vessels, and quietly sets the stage for heart attacks and strokes. Yet, new research shows that even modest reductions in salt added to everyday packaged and prepared foods could prevent thousands of deaths and hundreds of thousands of serious cardiovascular events. Today, we're going to break down what these new studies found, why sodium has such a powerful impact on your health, and what simple steps you can take right now to protect your heart. Before we dive in, if you find value in content that helps you make smarter, healthier choices, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you never miss future updates. Also, be sure to check the description box for sources and references used in today's discussion. Hello, I'm Dr. Justin Whiteman. I analyze the latest research on blood pressure, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, translating complex scientific findings into clear, practical insights through educational video content. Let's get started. To understand why salt reduction matters so much, we need to first look at the scale of the problem. High blood pressure, also known as hypertension, affects billions of people worldwide. It's often called the silent killer because it typically has no symptoms until serious damage has already occurred. Over time, elevated blood pressure forces the heart to work harder to pump blood through stiffened arteries. This extra strain accelerates the development of atherosclerosis, the buildup of plaque inside blood vessels, and increases the risk of heart attacks, strokes, kidney disease, and even cognitive decline. While genetics, stress, physical activity, and overall diet all play roles, sodium intake is one of the most powerful and modifiable drivers of high blood pressure. Sodium itself is not the enemy. Your body actually needs sodium to function properly. It helps regulate fluid balance, supports nerve signaling, and allows muscles to contract. The problem arises when sodium intake consistently exceeds what the body can handle. When you consume too much sodium, your body retains more water to dilute the excess salt in your bloodstream. This increased fluid volume raises blood pressure by increasing the amount of blood pushing against your vessel walls. Over time, this constant pressure damages delicate blood vessels and forces your heart to work harder than it should. According to the American Heart Association, about 90% of Americans consume too much sodium. The average adult in the United States takes in around 3,500 milligrams of sodium per day. That's far above the recommended limit of 2,300 milligrams per day, which is roughly equivalent to 1 teaspoon of salt. For people with high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney disease, or other cardiovascular risk factors, the recommended limit is even lower, closer to 1,500 milligrams per day. When you consider these numbers, it becomes clear that most people are exceeding healthy limits by a wide margin. What makes this issue particularly challenging is that most of this sodium does not come from the salt shaker on your kitchen table. Instead, the majority of sodium intake comes from processed and prepared foods. Experts estimate that around 75% of the sodium Americans consume comes from foods purchased at grocery stores in packaged form, or from meals eaten at restaurants and fast food establishments. This includes bread, soups, sauces, frozen meals, deli meats, cheese, snack foods, and even items that don't taste particularly salty, like breakfast cereals or flavored yogurts. Food manufacturers add salt for several reasons. Salt enhances flavor, making foods more appealing and palatable. It also acts as a preservative, extending shelf life and preventing the growth of bacteria. From a business standpoint, salt is inexpensive and effective. From a health standpoint, however, the cumulative impact of small amounts of added sodium across many foods adds up quickly. This is where the new research becomes especially important. Two recent studies published in the journal Hypertension examined what happens when food companies gradually reduce the amount of salt in commonly consumed foods. These studies focused on France and the United Kingdom, countries where public health initiatives have encouraged manufacturers to subtly lower sodium levels over time. In France, researchers analyzed national dietary and health data to estimate the effects of reducing salt content in bread, one of the most widely consumed foods in the country. Bread may not taste extremely salty, but because it's eaten frequently and in large quantities, it contributes significantly to daily sodium intake. The researchers found that modest reductions in bread salt content could lower adults' daily salt intake by about 0.35 grams. While that may sound small, the population-level impact was substantial. This reduction was associated with lower average blood pressure and an estimated prevention of more than 1,100 deaths. In the United Kingdom, researchers looked at broader reductions across packaged foods and takeout meals. They estimated that similar changes could reduce daily sodium intake by about 17.5%. Over a 20-year period, this reduction could prevent more than 100,000 cases of heart disease and around 25,000 cases of stroke. These are not small numbers. These are life-altering outcomes that translate into fewer hospitalizations, lower healthcare costs, improved quality of life, and countless families spared from the pain of losing loved ones prematurely. One of the most encouraging aspects of these findings is that the salt reductions studied were modest. Researchers emphasized that the changes would not dramatically alter taste. This is crucial because taste preferences can adapt over time. When sodium levels are gradually reduced, most people do not notice the difference. In fact, over time, your taste buds become more sensitive to salt, and foods that once seemed normal can start to taste overly salty. This phenomenon has been observed in countries that have implemented sodium reduction programs. Gradual reformulation of foods allows the population to adapt without feeling deprived or dissatisfied. It also avoids the backlash that can occur when dramatic changes are introduced too quickly. The key takeaway here is that meaningful health benefits do not require extreme dietary overhauls. Small, consistent changes at the population level can have enormous effects. Now let's bring this discussion closer to home. In the United States, sodium intake remains stubbornly high. Despite public awareness campaigns and updated nutrition labels, many people still underestimate how much sodium they consume. One reason is that sodium is hidden in foods that don't taste salty. For example, a single slice of bread can contain 150 to 250 milligrams of sodium. A bowl of canned soup can easily exceed 700 milligrams. A fast food meal with a sandwich, fries, and a drink can push sodium intake well above the daily recommended limit in just one sitting. Dr. Daniel Jones, a professor and dean emeritus at the University of Mississippi School of Medicine and chair of the American Heart Association and American College of Cardiology Blood Pressure Guideline Committee, points out that most Americans get about 3/4 of their food from processed sources. That means the majority of sodium exposure is not under direct control unless people make conscious decisions about what they buy and eat. Dr. Latha Palaniappan from Stanford University School of Medicine highlights another critical point. The average sodium intake of 3,500 milligrams per day is not just slightly above recommendations. It's significantly higher, especially for people with high blood pressure. For these individuals, the recommended limit of 1,500 milligrams per day is less than half of what many people currently consume. This gap represents a major opportunity for improvement. So, what can you do as an individual? While systemic changes in food manufacturing are essential, personal choices still matter. One of the simplest and most effective strategies is to shift your shopping habits. Experts often recommend shopping around the perimeter of the grocery store. This is where fresh foods like fruits, vegetables, lean meats, fish, eggs, and dairy products are typically located. These foods tend to be less processed and naturally lower in sodium. Another helpful guideline is to focus on foods with peels rather than packages. Fresh produce, whole grains, nuts, and seeds provide essential nutrients, fiber, and antioxidants without excessive sodium. When you do buy packaged foods, take the time to read nutrition labels. Look at the sodium content per serving and pay attention to serving sizes. Many products appear reasonable at first glance, but contain multiple servings per package, which can quickly double or triple sodium intake. Cooking at home more often is another powerful tool. When you prepare meals yourself, you have direct control over how much salt goes into your food. You can experiment with herbs, spices, citrus, vinegar, garlic, and other flavor-enhancing ingredients that do not rely on sodium. Over time, you may find that you prefer the natural flavors of food without heavy salt seasoning. Eating out presents its own challenges, but there are strategies that can help. You can ask for sauces and dressings on the side, choose grilled or baked options instead of fried foods, and avoid menu items described as smoked, cured, or heavily seasoned. Portion control also matters. Restaurant servings are often much larger than necessary, which increases sodium intake along with calories. Beyond individual behavior, it's important to recognize the role of policy and industry responsibility. The studies from France and the United Kingdom demonstrate that when governments, health organizations, and food manufacturers work together, meaningful change is possible. Voluntary sodium reduction targets, transparent labeling, and public education campaigns can all contribute to healthier food environments. From a public health perspective, reducing sodium intake is one of the most cost-effective strategies for preventing cardiovascular disease. Unlike expensive medical treatments that address disease after it has already developed, sodium reduction targets the root cause of high blood pressure. Preventing disease before it starts saves money, reduces strain on healthcare systems, and improves overall population health. Another important aspect of this conversation is health equity. High blood pressure and cardiovascular disease disproportionately affect low-income communities and marginalized populations. These groups often have limited access to fresh foods and rely more heavily on inexpensive processed products that are high in sodium. By improving the nutritional quality of commonly consumed packaged foods, sodium reduction initiatives can help narrow health disparities and improve outcomes for vulnerable populations. Let's also talk about long-term brain health. Emerging research suggests that high blood pressure is linked not only to heart disease and stroke, but also to cognitive decline and dementia. Chronically elevated blood pressure damages small blood vessels in the brain, reducing blood flow and increasing the risk of vascular dementia. By controlling sodium intake and maintaining healthy blood pressure, you are not just protecting your heart, you are also protecting your brain. Kidney health is another area where sodium plays a critical role. The kidneys regulate fluid and electrolyte balance, including sodium levels. Excess sodium forces the kidneys to work harder, increasing the risk of chronic kidney disease. Over time, this can lead to reduced kidney function and the need for dialysis or transplantation. Again, small dietary changes can have a powerful protective effect. One of the most common questions people ask is whether cutting sodium will make food bland and unenjoyable. The reality is that taste preferences are adaptable. When you gradually reduce sodium intake, your palate becomes more sensitive to subtle flavors. Foods that once seemed plain begin to taste richer and more complex. Many people who reduce their salt intake report that highly processed foods eventually taste overly salty and less appealing. It's also worth noting that potassium plays an important role in balancing the effects of sodium. Diets rich in potassium, which is found in foods like bananas, oranges, potatoes, beans, leafy greens, and avocados, help counteract sodium's impact on blood pressure. Increasing potassium intake through whole foods while reducing sodium from processed foods creates a powerful combination for cardiovascular health. Now let's bring this all together. The new studies from France and the United Kingdom provide strong evidence that reducing sodium in processed and prepared foods can prevent thousands of deaths and hundreds of thousands of cardiovascular events. These benefits are achieved through relatively small changes that do not significantly affect taste or consumer satisfaction. At the same time, individual actions such as choosing fresh foods, reading labels, cooking at home, and making smarter restaurant choices can further amplify these benefits. This is not about perfection, it's about progress. You don't need to eliminate all sodium from your diet. You don't need to avoid every packaged food forever. What matters is awareness and consistency. Each time you choose a lower sodium option, cook a meal from scratch, or add more fresh produce to your plate, you are making an investment in your long-term health. Imagine the collective impact if millions of people made these small changes at the same time. Fewer heart attacks, fewer strokes, fewer families affected by preventable disease, more years of healthy life, more energy, clarity, and vitality. This is the potential power of sodium reduction, and it's within reach. As we wrap up, I want to remind you that staying informed is one of the most powerful tools you have. Science is constantly evolving, and new research continues to refine our understanding of how diet affects health. By following evidence-based guidance and staying curious, you can make choices that truly support your well-being. If you found this information helpful, please remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more science-based insights on blood pressure, diabetes, and cardiovascular health. Don't forget to check the description box for sources and references used in today's discussion. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of your heart, take care of your health, and I'll see you in the next video.